gonna take crackerjack timing, Wang.
Total concentration. You ready, Jack?
I was born ready.
In today's comic book industry news, right here on Thinking Critical YouTube, Jonathan Hickman confirms his X-Men books are very dense. DC Comics announces Grant Morrison's The Green Lantern is cancelled after only 12 issues. Is this all a well-orchestrated ruse? Stay tuned for the latest. Marvel Comics unveiled their first look at Cadaverous, the new face of nepotism. Tim Drake receives a new hero costume. DC Comics, please, I'm begging you, stop giving Brian Michael Bendis carte blanche to make changes to characters. Bendis' ideas age like a fine chocolate milk. Kelly Thompson, Zoe Quinn, and Ann Abnett are all leading new comic series. Just how high can this much salt drive my blood pressure? There's only one way to find out. I hope you're all ready for your Nerd Culture 411. It's time for today's comic industry news. Comicbook.com is reporting Jonathan Hickman's Dawn of X story arc is doing no less than reinventing the entire X-Men mythos for the modern era, and the Marvel fandom has certainly stood and taken notice. The alternating events of both House of X and Powers of 10 have thrown readers for a wide loop with some mind-boggling sci-fi concepts, but Hickman's books are also distinguishing themselves for including graphic designer Tom Muller's dense sections of charts and text files that accompany the story. So why does a Marvel Comics storyline with so many fantastical sci-fi concepts need a science textbook worth of supporting data? EW sat down with Jonathan Hickman to talk about this very subject. Even in my first work, I've always played with the idea of what is narrative and what isn't. If narrative is all art and words, then graphic design is a part of it as well. Hickman explains. The reason why I like it is because it changes the way you read the book, just in terms of how long it takes you to read a page. Even if it's a super wordy page or dense book, there's a certain amount of time you allocate to each page, and you know how long it'll take to read an average comic. When you start interlacing that with stuff that takes longer to read or things you digest in a different manner, if you change the mechanics of the way people read the books, you're exerting more finite control on their experience reading a comic. That's super important because people consume so much pop culture nowadays. It's not like it was when I was a kid, when you save up your money to buy comics or spend a whole week waiting for the next episode of Knight Rider. All of that's changed. Everything is hyper compressed and super dense. Hickman later adds, I can do a more cinematic book if I'm not robbing the reader of information in the interim pages. I don't want someone to spend $4 and be done with the book in 5 minutes. Alright, first things first, I think we can all agree we wish House of X and Powers of 10 were $4 each. My largest criticism of the series are the prices. At some point the big two are going to have to lay off customers with the price gouging, or there won't be anyone left to rip off. Now on to the crux of Hickman's statements. So far as reference materials have been hit or miss for me. The supporting information presented in House of X number 1, and especially House of X number 2, are phenomenal. I give the creative team an A+ for presenting a ton of easily digestible information. The Many Lives of Moira X is one of the best story add-ons I've ever read. I was genuinely excited reading through it, trying to find any clues or Easter eggs Hickman may have included. It's something a lot of X-Men fans will continue revisiting as House of X and Powers of 10 progress. The story aids of Powers of 10 are a completely different story. They are far too dense and feel like work to get through. In fairness to Hickman, there probably isn't a way to present specifics of future mutant eugenics programs in an exciting fashion. But there is a sweet spot for these kinds of graphic designs. Hickman and his team have missed badly on the Powers of 10 series so far. As the saying goes, a teaspoon of vinegar goes a long way. I also think replacing pages of traditional comic art with charts or blocks of text shouldn't be the norm in Hickman's X-Men or the comic book industry. When I pay my hard-earned money for a comic book, I expect a sequentially illustrated story. Adding these types of reference materials while maintaining the amount of illustrated pages for the same price is a tremendous value add. Replacing illustrated pages one for one with computer-generated graphs and pages of text while charging the same price, or in the case of House of X and Powers of 10, $1 more, won't fly long term. Although I can definitely see C.B. Cebulski and his legion of doofuses led by Tom Brevoort and Jordan White seeing this as a great way to continue cutting production costs. According to Newsarama, Grant Morrison is launching a new Blackstars limited series for DC out of his current The Green Lantern run. Working with Wonder Woman artist Xermanico, the 3-issue Green Lantern Blackstars will replace Morrison and Liam Sharp's The Green Lantern, which is now confirmed to be ending with October's number 12. DC somewhat spoils the ending of Green Lantern number 12 in setting up Blackstars, saying that as a result of that issue, known Green Lanterns can be found patrolling their space sectors. Not a single power ring lights the darkness. What happens in the finale of Morrison and Sharp's incredible year-long run is shrouded in mystery, but the Green Lantern Corps is no more. Scratch that. They never existed in the first place. What has Hal Jordan done? The publisher has confirmed Blackstars will be set outside of primary DC continuity. While DC has confirmed the Green Lantern number 12 will be the duo's finale on that book, according to the artist, the plan is for the two to reunite for another run in the near future. Sharp revealed the plans Wednesday in the wake of the Green Lantern Blackstars announcement. All 3 covers link up into one sprawling piece, and I'll be back for at least 10 more issues with Grant soon. But this miniseries will rock. It was the plan all along, Sharp tweeted. Morrison and Sharp have previously described the Green Lantern 1 through 12 as year 1 of their first season, so presumably this would mean a second season is in the works, either resuming with the Green Lantern number 13 or possibly a new number 1. When I first read Grant Morrison and Liam Sharp's The Green Lantern was ending at issue 12, I was very confused. DC Comics' top 13 issues shipped are all Batman, Superman, or Justice League related. Their 14th best-selling comic, The Green Lantern, is well ahead of fellow OG DC heroes Flash, Wonder Woman, and Aquaman. DC Comics needs titles that move units. However, after hearing Liam Sharp's follow-up, it kind of makes sense. DC likely gets a sales bump with the limited event series Blackstars, while allowing Liam Sharp to take a break near the holidays, or even better, get a few issues ahead for the return of the Green Lantern. I'm a bit confused how Blackstars is set outside of DC continuity while also spinning out of the pages of the Green Lantern number 12. Either way, if they restart Morrison and Sharp's The Green Lantern at number 1 when it returns, I don't see that going over well with readers. The title was launched as an ongoing, not a maxi series. Using Marvel Comics' shady predatory tactics won't go over well with DC readers. But DC Comics is becoming Marvel 2.0 with each passing week, so I'm kind of expecting it at this point, to be honest. Comicbook.com is reporting the internet was not prepared for a Spider-Man series held by J.J. Abrams earlier this year, and fans reacted accordingly to the news. Now, details are slowly coming out about the story and Spider-Man's newest foe in the series, Cadaverous. A new trailer for the miniseries debuted today, and the world got its first look at the creepy new villain. After Mary Jane pulls Spider-Man from the rubble, a hulking monstrosity connected to muscle-like sinew stands above both of them. Peter Parker is looking in pretty rough shape, and his costume is in tatters before Cadaverous' forces set upon him and MJ once again. Executive editor Nick Lowe gave some detail on what fans can expect from the newest member of Spidey's Rogues Gallery during the trailer. Cadaverous is one of the most terrifying Spider-Man villains of all time, and that's saying something. He's faced a Green Goblin, Carnage, and Venom. Cadaverous might be a little scarier and a little grosser than any of them, Lowe explained. He continued, Cadaverous and his minions are terrifying, and they do some horrible things to our main characters very early on in the story that are going to be really hard to recover from, if they can. Yeah, I'm going to have to disagree with Nick Lowe. Not much about Cadaverous looks too intimidating, let alone scary. The character design is far too similar to General Grievous from the prequel trilogy. Cadaverous' minions are also very reminiscent of Xenomorphs from Ridley Scott and comic book fame. J.J. Abrams' Spider-Man should be an interesting test for the market. Generally speaking, celebrity writers don't sell comic books well, but Spidey is on the Mount Rushmore of characters, and his titles easily move the second most units by volume and dollars after Batman. Also promising the introduction of a key new villain demonstrates Marvel Comics' commitment to the series' success. However, C.B. Cebulski's announcement of the J.J. and Son Henry Abrams-led miniseries was met with derision and mocking. It's hard to predict what level of success, if any, Abrams' family Spider-Man will experience. It kind of feels like this is a vehicle to launch Henry's career as a comic creator, but that's pure speculation on my part. This could just as easily be a one-off project for the Hollywood heavyweight and his progeny. CBR.com reports DC has released an official first look at Tim Drake's new costume on the cover of November's Young Justice number 10. The release of DC's November 2019 solicitations contains the Young Justice number 10 cover by artist John Timms, with Tim Drake's updated superhero suit receiving a prominent place at the bottom of the cover. Joining Young Justice on the November cover is the breakout star of Wonder Comics, Naomi. One of the big differences between the new costume and the previous suit worn by Tim Drake is the lack of a cape. The new suit also forgoes the red and green color scheme from his Red Robin days for the decreased color tones of brown and gray, with his utility belt and small outlines on the costume appearing as gold. Something else that is removed is Tim's Red Robin chest emblem, which isn't too much of a surprise considering Tim will be receiving a new superhero name in Young Justice number 8. DC first revealed Tim Drake would be adopting a new superhero moniker in April during the release of its July 2019 solicitations. However, the change was then moved from Young Justice number 7 to 8 due to writer Brian Michael Bendis wanting to give more page time to the special guest artists and dimensions that appeared in the comic. If DC Comics wants to flow a little money my way, I can help them avoid these kinds of PR snafus. While I do agree to a point that having Tim Drake Robin, Red Robin, and Damian Wayne Robin in the same universe is confusing, this new costume and color scheme are severely uninspired. This particular shade of brown was an awful choice. It's far too evocative of a certain bodily function most fans don't want associated with their superheroes. Tim Drake probably needs his own individual hero moniker at this point, but I most certainly wouldn't have let Bendis make this change. The terrible direction he's taken Superman and Action Comics and the very unpopular aging up of Jonathan Kent haven't set well with many DC Comics customers. I can't think of many big changes spearheaded by Bendis himself that wouldn't be opposed for simply coming from the man who destroyed Superman and Jonathan Kent. The sooner DC starts removing their eggs from the Bendis basket, the better. Newsarama reports Marvel's new king has been crowned as the publisher has revealed the mysterious figure on the throne in its post-Comic-Con International San Diego Long Live the King teaser is none other than Deadpool. And with the reveal comes the announcement of a new Deadpool number 1 from writer Kelly Thompson and artist Chris Bachalo. Deadpool's newest mercenary job has him going after the King of Monsters, who has claimed a new kingdom for his subjects on Staten Island, said Tucker Marcus. Can Deadpool's smooth diplomacy and Deadpool's smooth charisma and deft diplomacy allow him to keep his head, or will he be royally screwed? Damn, Newsarama, get your stuff together. That made no sense. Okay, moving on. Marvel's continuous cycle of reboots to push out an endless stream of number 1 issues has no end in sight. Marvel overplayed its Deadpool hand the last 2 years and flooded the market with titles fronted by the Merc with the Mouth. The character's popularity tends to ebb and flow between giant highs and lows. I don't see Kelly Thompson changing the tide to a boom period for Deadpool in the near future. Marvel has very few quality writers compared to their abundance of bottom-tier talents. I put Thompson squarely in the bottom-tier category, but she is one of Marvel Comics' best bad writers. Her Mr. and Mrs. X was one of the better terrible X-Men related titles before Hickman's recent reboot. The real head-scratcher here is the fit between character and creator. Thompson isn't known for her humor translating to the written page. Marvel would have been much better served giving Deadpool creator Rob Liefeld another run on the character. Nobody has consistently achieved Liefeld's level of sales and popularity with Deadpool. Feels like a huge missed opportunity to generate excitement with the character. I doubt Thompson's Deadpool run will last more than 12 to 18 issues, and I bet it only generates decent sales for issue 1. Also courtesy of Newsarama, writer Zoe Quinn has joined Marvel's Fearless number 3, writing a Hellcat story for the September 25th issue of the anthology. The artist has not been named. What I love about Hellcat is how she's been through hell, literally. Instead of being bitter or mean, she's still sweet and cares more about helping people than she does punishing them, Quinn told Marvel.com. It's been really fun to write for her because in addition to her own awesomeness, she gets this really excellent supporting cast of other really relatable street-level supers, gig economy workers, and actual dang demons. Gee, oh my god. Oh my. Marvel is really dredging the bottom of their talent sewers these days. Zoe Quinn has no discernible talent to speak of, and that certainly includes writing. She recently described Goddess Mode and played a part in the destruction of DC Comics' Vertigo imprint. I believe issue 1 shipped 10,000, and then no other issue shipped more than 6,000 of Goddess Mode. The series was canceled abruptly, and I think even one of the issues never even published. Crap like this is why I'll never jump firmly on board Marvel Comics. CB and his legion of doofuses are an absolute dumpster fire of terrible ideas, outdated marketing gimmicks, and predatory publishing practices. Zoe Quinn has never had and never will have a place in the comic book industry, let alone one at the big two. Way to kill your new anthology series before it even releases an issue, CB. According to ICV2, Valiant Entertainment will launch a new Rye comic series written by Dan Abnett with art by Juan Jose Rip on November 20, the company announced. The science fiction series takes place in the 41st century when the cyborg samurai Rye goes on a quest to save the future in a journey that introduces new worlds and new characters. Abnett, who wrote the 5-issue miniseries Fallen World, set in the same far future part of the Valiant universe, said of the series, "It's got a blend of action, sci-fi, a little horror, and a lot of character. I think it's a very distinctive book that has its own special feel." Dan Abnett and Adam Polina's Fallen World is probably the most disappointed I have ever been in a comic series in my entire life. Rye is easily my favorite series, and Abnett, who I'm a huge fan of, just doesn't get the character. Fallen World felt like a vehicle to launch a new series featuring other characters rather than a spotlight for Rye and the amazing world Matt Kent and Clayton Crane created. I would probably give this next Rye series a chance, but I can't imagine Valiant picking a worse artist for the gig. I actually like Juan Jose Rip's style, but it doesn't fit the character of World at all. I'm genuinely shocked anyone at Valiant Comics thought this was a good pairing of character and artist. Then again, they hired Heather Ontos, Vita Ayala, B. Claymore, Cullen Bond, and Max Visaggio, and didn't release a single issue of Exo Manowar, Bloodshot, Ninja K, or Shadow Man in August. Valiant flatlined last year, and I see no hope of recovery in the future. That just about does it, folks. Jonathan Hickman wants to engage readers on a different level with his text-heavy graphic aids in House of X and Powers of 10. DC Comics is canceling one of their best-selling series after just 12 issues. However, artist Liam Sharp says the Green Lantern is returning. It will be interesting to see if DC borrows a page from Marvel's predatory playbook and reboots the Green Lantern to issue 1 with the same creative team. Marvel Comics tease new Spidey villain Cadaverous. Brian Michael Bendis is giving Tim Drake a new hero name and costume. Fans hate it. Kelly Thompson's Deadpool, Zoe Quinn's Fearless #3, and Dan Abnett's Rye all appear to be future busts in this humble correspondent's eye. Thank you so much for joining me for today's comic book industry news. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. It helps us attract more views for the channel. Subscribe for future commentary, comic book news, and reviews. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk comics, movies, and much, much more, you can follow me on Twitter at Wes_from_TC. With that, Salamat Po, and I'm out.